Welcome back to Yerushalmi Maasrot. We are Sheni. We're on Yud Beis and Beis. Now we made distinctions between when Amaret says take for yourself figs, and a case where he says take and bring it into your house. In the first case, the people who receive it can eat it achilas arai without taking maisa. In the second case, they're not allowed to do it. So the Gemara explains the first thing. So nasan lai davar maruba. So if the Amaret gives to those who are receiving it a big amount of figs. And you don't usually eat a big amount in the market. So the din is, I feel amala, even if the Amaret says, Tol ve'achol, take and eat. Kamisha amala, it's as if he said, Tol, take the fruit, v'hachnes, and bring it into your house to eat. Therefore, you're not allowed to eat even achilas arai in the market until you separate maasros out of doubt, or treat it as demai. Nasan lai davar she'en da'akol chai, if Amaret gives you something which you don't eat raw, I feel amala, even if he says, Tol ve'achol, take and eat. It's like he says, Tell v'hachnes, go and take it into your house. Hiya Adam Gadol. Hiya Adam Gadol. If it was a choshev person, was a receiver, he doesn't eat in the market. Amalai, the Amaret says, Tell v'achol, take and eat. Kimisha Amalai, it's as if the Amaret says, Tell v'hachnes, go and take it into your house to eat, and therefore he will have to take maisa on it. Hayu Shnaim, if two people were receiving the fruit, Lezeh Amalai, so to one of them, the Amaret says, Tol v'achol, take and eat. Lezeh Amalai, to the second one, he said, Tol v'achnes, go and bring it into your house to eat. So Zesh Amalai Tol v'achol, the one who told him take and eat, Potter, doesn't have to take maser in the shuk, and he can eat it achilas arai. Zesh Amalai Tol v'achnes, the one who he said, go and take it into your house, Chayev, then he has to take maser, and before that, he's not allowed to eat it, even on a temporary basis. Okay, so he's like giving certain fruit to one person, certain fruit to another. So we learn out from his words that each one, the fruit's got a different din. Right, if he just gives both of them the same fruit, then there's no reason to distinguish between one and the other. Okay, Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi said, V'lav mas nisahi. Surely have we not learned this din from the Mishnah? The Mishnah tells us that people who are sitting in the gate of the courtyard with a shop, if the Amaret says, take figs to eat. So the people there are allowed to eat it, temporary eating. Or Pretorian, they don't have to take maser. But the one whose house it is, whose gate it is, whose shop it is, Balashah, Balachanus, that is their place, Chayavin. They have to take maser before they eat. Now the reason is because the gate of the courtyard or the shop are like a house for their owners. But they're not like a house for everyone else who's there. So as far as other people, when the Amaret says go and take the figs to eat, as if he's saying eat it in the market. Therefore they can eat achilas arai without separating maisa. For the owner of the courtyard or the shop, now the gate of the courtyard or the shop are their house. When he says take figs to eat, as if he's saying take and bring it into your house. And therefore they're not allowed to eat from the figs until they separate maasros. So we see already from the Mishnah this chidush, what the Gemara is telling us, that you might have different people having different dinim. So what is the Gemara telling us then? The Gemara answers, the din of the Mishnah is not what's brought in the Gemara earlier on. Am Rav Yonah, you got it? Am Rav Yonah, he says the din we learned in the Mishnah is not what the Gemara is telling us. Kan, in the Gemara's din, is b'dmai. We're talking about demai. The second receiver, the Amar says take it to your house, you have to take peres demai, take maisa demai. Kan, in the Mishnah, is bevada, is definite tevel. Is the owner of the courtyard or the owner of the shop, when they bring the fruit into their domain, they have to separate maasros as tevel vadai. So the din that the Mishnah is telling us, talking about something completely different from the case of what the Gemara is telling us. Therefore you can't learn the din of the Gemara from the din that we learned in our Mishnah. Okay? Now, we also said, a proof from our Mishnah, that giving fruit as a gift does not obligate a chiyuv ma'aser, like a sale, right? So we're going to bring a brisa that talks about this, okay? Have you got, I know my colleague was helping with the wording, that we had a different gears that we were using, some things were a bit out of order, but let's see. Go and gather for yourself 20 figs from my field. And I, in exchange, will memales kresi, I will fill up my stomach with eating figs mishalcha, from your field. Yeah, you gather 20 figs in my field, and I will fill my stomach by eating figs from your field. So I will eat figs from your field, as much as I want. I will male crazy, means I'll have as many as I want. Right? So the din is, Hamamales Kresai Potter, the one who's filling up his stomach, does not have to separate Maaseh from the figs that he's eating. Whereas the one who's eating 20, or Eichel, the one who's eating, the first guy, B'minyan, with a fixed number, Chayav, he does have to separate Maasros. You follow? So the one who's got 20 has to separate Maasros. The one who can eat as much as he wants does not have to separate Maasros. Okay. Rabbi Bun Bachia, he asked before Abzera, he says, Ve'ein Adam Eichel Achas Achas. Have you got the text? No, we're just waiting for our friend Mendel. It's not in that Girsa? Ve'ein Adam, if you give me a copy, I'll try and find it. Ein Adam Eichel Achas Achas B'Shus HaKol, or Pato. Yeah? So surely, the person who buys figs, they're not Gemar Malacha. You eat one by one, where everyone can go in the street. And Upato, you don't have to take Maisa. So the fact that you eat 20 figs, why does that obligate? Amalei, he says, you're right. The one who buys it can gather it and eat from the figs one by one. He doesn't have to take Masa. So Hacha, the case of Brisa, Lama Hu Chayv. So why the one who's eating the figs with number, why does he have to take Maisa? If he's gathering them, eating one by one, he should eat them without separating Maisa. Amalei. So he answered back to Ribun. We're talking about a case where the buyer is mitzaref. You're gathering them together. You're gathering more than one in one go. You're not allowed to eat from them without separating maestros. So what's he doing? He's like gathering them all together. You follow? Yeah, you got this? No, you've not got it in Agirsa? No, okay, apologies for this. It's not in Agirsa. We'll find it soon. Mitzaref, if you are gathering the figs together, then afila mamales kresa yehichayev. Even one who fills his stomach should also be chayev to gather all the figs that he's gathering. He says, "Ve'eda also surely is forbidden to eat the one who's gathering without separating meises v'shum chalipin." You got this. Maybe there should be a problem here. Let's say the one who's just filling his stomach, right? It should be forbidden because of chalipin. You shouldn't be able to eat because it's like chalipin with the one he's bought, right? I gave you 20, you're giving me others to eat. Why isn't it in exchange? The one who's machlif, who's like swapping fruit with his friend, is like selling what you're giving and acquiring what you're receiving. So also he's filling up his stomach. He shouldn't be able to eat until he separates maestros. Rav Shammai said, the one who's gathering and whatever he wants, he's got no chiyuv to separate maestro chalipin. No, because of chalipin. No. Because the truth is, when he says, I'm filling up my stomach from yours, he doesn't really mean to receive fruit instead of what he's giving his friend. All his intention is, lahage, says Levi, to cheer up his friend, the heart of his friend. He shouldn't be embarrassed and eat the 20 figs that he's giving him. He doesn't want his friend to be embarrassed. So you're cheering him up, making him feel good. Eat the 20. I'll fill myself up. Don't worry. He doesn't really intend to. Do you understand? It wasn't his kavanah as a transaction as such. So even in the end, he fills his stomach with these figs. What he's taking is not in exchange for the 20 he gave his friend. It's a gift that his friend is giving him. So therefore, even if you're gathering together a few figs together, you can just eat it. You don't have to take maestros. Because the fruit you're receiving as a gift is not fixed for Maaseh. It's not like fruit that was bought as a transaction. The friend, on the other hand, he allowed him to gather the fruit wherever he wants, because he's giving him reshus to gather 20. As far as him is concerned, it's considered a transaction of chalipin. It's got a din of a sale. So the Brisa says when the person gathers 2 figs or more and puts them together, they are kover as maaseh, and you can't eat until you separate maestros. Okay, so that's what we are. So it really depends what his intention is. So the one which way around is it? So the one who's just gathering whatever he wants, there's no chalipin there. No intention of chalipin. Even if he eats whatever he eats, it's not tamura, it's matana. He puts them together, he can eat it without separating maestros. Whereas the friend, the one that you gave 20 to, I allowed you to gather whatever you're taking, and I gave you reshus to take 20, and therefore it's considered a proper amount, like a transaction. Okay? Fine. Next one. Someone who tells the owner of the tree, who's got a tree of figs, say v'laket lecha esrim te'inim. Go and gather 20 figs, sheli, from my fig tree. Oichel, he can eat the figs, like a temporary eating, kedaka as normal. But he doesn't have to separate maestros. But if the Bala Ilan said, have you got it? Yeah? If the owner of the tree said, say umale esakalkala, go and fill up your basket with the figs from this tree, then lo yachal, don't eat it even achilas aray alchi ase until you take demai, take maisa. Right? So you got that? So if I say go and gather 20, you can just eat it. But if I say go and fill a basket, then he has to take maisa. But when are these words said? That the malakit can take maisa on like tamai, where the owner of the tree is the Amoritz, who's not believed on maisras, maybe never took maisa. Aval, in the situation of chaver, but chaver where he's believed on maisras, then the one who's gathering oichel can eat the figs, even a fixed eating. But you don't have to take maisa. Surely the owner of the tree must have taken maisa, right? He's a chaver, he would be very careful to take maisa. Right? Divrei Rebbe, that's the view of Rebbe. Shimon Gamliel over, he said, when does the gatherer have to take maisa only as demai? It's the case where the owner of the tree, but Amaretz. If the owner of the tree is a chaver, and then you're gathering, Mesakanon, you separate Trumas and Maisris. Treat it as proper Tevel Vadai, right? You have to separate. Definite Truma, or Trum Maisa, you have to separate Trumas and Maisris. And assume the chaver didn't do anything at all. Right? Not like Demai, it's a definite obligation. Surely the Baal Ilan, the owner of the tree, didn't separate any Trumas and Maisris from elsewhere. Why would he not separate from elsewhere? Because remember, a chaver will only separate truma near the actual fruit, and he's not here now. We never suspect them to take truma shalom and amukov when they're not nearby, because you can't separate truma and peiros if you're not nearby. So this chaver hasn't separated it, so you have to do it. Be so careful in the laws of truma. It's not going to be over isurim. You who are gathering, you have to separate truma and maestros as tevel vadai. Because the owner is not nearby to start seeing to it. Okay? Rebbe said, I think I'm right, where the Bala Ilan is a chaver, that you don't have to take Meiser at all. Because surely the chaver must have taken Meiser, not to allow you to stumble. More than what Mishum Gamliel said, who said, oh no, you have to take Meiser as proper tebel. Definitely the chaver did not take Truma, Shalom and Amukov. So I think I'm right, that you can assume Truma was taken. Why? Because Mutav Sheyisrael is better for the chaver to take truma, Shalom and Amukim not being here, as opposed to causing Amaretz to eat tevel, right? He wants to make sure there's no tevel around for the Amaretz to eat. So it's better to be mechab for the chaver to be Torah Shalom and Amukim, even though he's over on the Isur, but that way he's not going to enable the Malakit, the gatherer, to stumble, who's an Amaretz, with the Isur of eating tevel. Therefore, in a situation where the Bala Ilan is a chaver, we assume he must have taken Maaseh from elsewhere, because he'd rather do that so that the Amaretz doesn't stumble. Now, based on what we said, the Svar of Rebbe was said only in the case where the Malaket is an Amaretz, and the owner of the tree is worried that Amaretz will stumble by eating tevel. Now, what about a case where the one who's gathering is a chaver, is reliable? Aruzira, Medivei Shnein, from Rebbe and Roshim Gamliel, we see that even chaver sheshilach lechaver, so one chaver sends another chaver to gather the figs from his tree, still sarech le'aseh, the gatherer must take trumaisa on the figs that he's gathering. So even Rebbe, we said, look, when a chaver sends an amaretz to gather the figs, we assume the first chaver must have taken maaseh, and the malaki doesn't have to, but he agrees when you send another chaver, we say definitely the first one didn't separate Trumas and Maestros, and the one who's gathering, he has to separate Peiros as proper Tevel. However, by Meima, they wanted to say that the Bnei Shiva looked into Reb Zira, and then what they thought he meant was, Mandom, the one who says that when the owner of the tree is a chaver, and the Malakit must take Maaseh like proper Tevel, which is Roshim Gamliel, that is because, look, no one's going to take Truma if they're not nearby. Even in this case, when the Malaki is Amoritz, he won't take Maestros, but the Chaver won't either. So in this case, where the Malaki, the gatherer, is a Chaver, then surely it makes sense that the Chaver who sent him never took Trumas and Maestros, because he wasn't around, And therefore, Tzorech Hu, the one who's gathering now, has to come along La'aseh to take the Maasros, right, on what is cut. Omad, the one who says in the Brisa, when he's a Chaver, the Malakit doesn't need to take Maaseh, which is Rebbe's view, because we assume that the owner of the figs separated Shuras and Maasros for him, even though he's over the Issa Shalom and Amukov, because he'd rather Mutav Shis Roma is better that he takes Truma, Chaver, even though I'm not nearby, Shalom and Amukov, I don't want to be a cause for the possible chance that Amaretz will eat Tevel. Right? So that's a case of a brisa where the gatherer is an Amaretz. And the owner's worried he'll be over a Tevel. But in this case, where the gatherer is a Chaver, and there's no worry he's going to eat figs without separating Maasros, then probably the Chaver who sent him never separated for him Trumas and Maasros not being there. And therefore, Tzorech Hu La'aseh, the gatherer has to take Maaseh on the figs that he's gathered. So therefore, whether it's from Shimon Gamliel or Rebbe, they all agree that if one Chaver sends another Chaver to gather the figs, the Malakit has to treat it as proper Tevel. You assume the first Chaver did nothing, because he knows the other Chaver will come and take all the Maasros that are required. Okay? Right. Rabbi Yoda boy, yeah? Rabbi Yoda asked, Hacha, in the first part of the Brisa, as Avid le Chaver, we're saying the gatherer is a Chaver. We're saying, look, if I say go and fill the bucket, you mustn't eat until he takes Maasros Demai, and Amaretz is not going to be. Now, who's going to listen to us? You tell the guy you must take Demai. Now, if he's an Amaretz who's doing the gathering, he's not going to listen to us. So we must be talking to a Chaver. But in the Sefer of the Brisa, we treat the gatherer as an Amaretz. Rebbe says it's better that the Chaverim should take Truma, not nearby, and not give the Amaretz Tevel. But if the Brisa is talking about a case where the Malakit is a Chaver, or is a gatherer is an Amaretz, what is he? Oh, Rabbi Yossi said, Can both cases Amaretz, so the gatherer is an Amaretz. And the Shvir Echad, for one purpose, for one individual Amaretz, who will listen to what the Chachamim say. He will take Maaseh when it's Demai. There's the one Amaretz that will take Maaseh when it's Demai, when we tell him to do it. And therefore, who Nikra Chaver, the Brisa tells us the din, it's as if he's a Chaver who wants to investigate the din. Right? It's the one Amaretz who will listen to us. Therefore, the Brisa says in the Reisha, that when the owner of the figs tells the Amaretz, go and fill the basket, it's chayiv to take Maaseh and din demai, because we're saying this one person might actually listen to us. Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rav Sheshes, Rabbi Yossi b'shem Rav Avin. You got this? Somebody tells his friend, Ani ma'aseh, I'm taking Maaseh on your fruit, al yadacha, for you. Then the owner of the fruit, you don't have to stand with him to see if he really did it. He says, I'm taking Maaseh for you. You trust him. Your friend said he's going to take Maaseh for you. You can rely on him. And you can eat relying on that. Taman Tanina. Elsewhere we have learned with Eruvei Techuvin, where it says Hashalech Eruvai, one who sends his Eruv to be made up, where he wants to stay the night. Let's you give a child to put your bread down, right? Someone doesn't agree with the Eruv. Even if the Shliach put it there where you wanted him to put it there, right? Let's say a child, he put it exactly where you wanted. It's not an Eruv. If he tells someone else, someone who's a ben das, another adult, you be my shliach to receive it, lekabla imenu, to receive the Eruv from these people who are not fitting. So let's say you told another adult to take it from the child. Then, and the shliach hakosher will make the Eruv for the shliach, harez the Eruv, then it is a valid Eruv. Okay? So here we're relying on the person who's kosher who put the Eruv down. And you required your place to stay in that place, he's acquired it on your behalf. But Rav Elazar said, this last din, the Bala Eruv has to stand with the Apostle Shliach and to see that he's putting the Eruv, giving it to a kosher Shliach, and he's receiving from him. If you didn't see this, you can't rely on the Eruv. It could be the kosher one never got the Eruv. He didn't put it down. So although the Shliach appointed the kosher one to be a Shliach, he can't rely on that minastam that he's carried out his shlichus. Whereas as far as Maaseh is concerned, we're saying that the owner of the fruit doesn't have to stay with this person who's agreed to separate Maaseh for you. You just rely on the fact that he's done it for you. So in other words, with an Eruv, we need to know that the kosher person received it. Here, someone says, I'll take Maisa for you, and you can just rely on that. Or can, with Maisa, but Gadol, an adult took upon himself to take Maisa, and we assume he kept his words. Can, with the Eruv, but Katad, it's a child who was sent with the Eruv, you can't rely on him. Therefore, if he's not with him and seeing him, giving him the Eruv to a kosher person, you cannot rely on him that he actually carried out shlichus. He said, I feel the tema can you say both the Maisa case and the Eruv case, but Gadol, the shliach is an adult. Or the shliach is in both cases is a child. But there's still a difference. Because Taman, with Eruvin, we say the Oimeloi is where you want the one who wants to do the Eruv, he tells the shliach, Arev al Yadai, you make an Eruv for me. I mean, the shliach didn't volunteer. Okay? You tell the shliach, please make an Eruv for me. The shliach didn't volunteer to receive the shlichus. So therefore you can't rely on him, unless you actually receiving the Eruv. But in our case, it's talking about a case, where the shliach willingly says to the owner of the fruit, Ani ma'aseh ad yadecha, I will take ma'aseh. We're Daf Yudalad, yeah? Ani ma'aseh ad yadecha, I will take Paris, I will take ma'aseh for you. Since he willingly wants to do the shlichus, you can rely on him completely that he's carried it out. Now, based on this svara, we say there's no real difference between Eruv and Maaseh. It depends. Did you volunteer him, or did he volunteer himself? You understand? That's what the difference is. Hada Yalfa Menahi. The case of Eruv we can learn from Maaseh. Ahi Yalfa Menada. And the Maaseh case we can learn from Eruv. Let's see. Hada Yalfa Menahi. Eruv you can learn from Maaseh, because with Eruv, if the shliach willingly says, Ani ma'arv al yadecha, I will make an Eruv for you, the din is, the Mishalech, you don't have to stay with him to see that he's actually received it. You can rely on the fact that he took it from the one who was carrying it and put it where it was meant to go. But here Yafa min Adam. And the case of Maaseh, we can learn from that which we said with Eruv, that as far as Maaseh is concerned, if the Balaperis starts an Oimalai and the owner of the fruit says to his shliach, Aser al Yodai, take Peres, take Maaseh for me, the din is you have to stay and watch him to check that he really took the Peres, took Maaseh for him. Okay? So therefore, that's what we're saying here. In Bavli, it's brought down 2 days where you can rely on Chazaka Shliach Shlichus. Rav Shesha says always you can rely on this Chazaka, and that fits in with the first teretz here. Rav Nachman is Mechalek between Torah Dinim and Rabbanan Dinim. Rabbanan Dinim, like Eruv, you can rely on the fact Chazaka Shliach carried out Shlichus. But as far as Torah Dinim, you can't rely on Chazaka. We're Machmeh, we're saying maybe he didn't carry out his Shlichus. The Rambam passes like this view, but Torah Dinim, you can't rely on Chazaka. Rabbanans, we rely on Chazaka. And the Rambam still says that even with Torah Dinim, if the Shliach volunteers to receive the Shlichus, you can rely on him that he did his Shlichus. And that's like the second teretz in our Gemara. So the Rambam brought a bit of Yerushalmi into the halacha there. Okay, fine. We are here. Say Velakid, yeah? So, the brisa we brought a difference between someone who tells his friend, go and gather yourself 20 figs, and the one who says, go and fill the basket. So we've got to bring a brisa which has another difference between the cases. So one who tells his friend, say Velakid lecha, esrim te'enim mishali, go and gather 20 figs from my field. So Eichel, he can eat it, alright, but Hailech, and go around, but he doesn't have to take Maaseh. But if the owner of the fig said, say Males HaKalkola, go and fill the basket, Rabbi said, I say the gatherer has to show the owner of the basket he's about to fill up, to know that the Baalim allows him to fill a basket this size. Right? Check with the owner, do you mean a basket this size? Now, what is a normal size of a basket? He said, if he said stam, go and fill a basket, then it means one that holds our basket in full cup. If he said gedola, big basket, then his intention is maybe a sar. And when he says katana, small basket, then his intention is shlosh's cup in 3 cup. So it depends, 3 cup, 4 cup, so. Now what about Rabbi Yonasan's then? And we said, fruit that was bought, that was collected, and put in a basket, and you're not going to cover the basket, they're chayav ma'aser when you fill up the basket. So Rabbi Yonah asked, Le Maasrot itamar. Was this said for Maasrot? This share was said for Maasrot. I tell a friend, fill up a basket. So the parents are obligated ma'aser when you fill the basket, which holds 4 kav. If I say a big basket, maybe it's going to be a basket that holds a sah. If I say a small basket, then maybe you fill up 3 kav. So is that what it's talking about? Or maybe maybe it's for monetary cases, this din was said. That when you gather, you're allowed to fill fruit only according to these shurim. But as far as maasros, maybe these shurim were not required. So maybe it's only a din as far as midas hadin, mominous, when I say you can take, how much can you take? In Tevena Maasrot Daf, if you're going to tell me it was said for maasros, that when you fill a small basket more, there's no chiv maasros if it's like smaller than what the owner meant, then kol shekain, how much was it midas hadin for mominous? You can't gather more than the share of what the owner allowed you to gather, right? But in Tevena midas hadin, if you're going to tell me these shurim was said for money matters, it could be as far as maasros they weren't said. But maybe as far as maasros, the din is that the fruit is obligated with ma'aser when you fill out the basket, even if it's a different size than what the owner thought about. And the Gemara answers that although Rabbi Yonah wasn't sure, he didn't know how to be machriah, but to someone else it was clear. Rabbi Yosef Shitalehi, it was clear to him that Maasrot itamar. These were shiurim as far as Maasrot is concerned. But kol shekain, how much was it in midas hadin for monetary matters? Okay, now people that were sitting in the gate, yeah, you got that, and they're in the courtyard or the shop, and the Amaretz goes by and says, "Go and take figs." So hein oichlin, yeah, have we got it now? Mendel hein oichlin upturin ubalashar balachalos chayavin. Just wait till he finds it. Hein oichlin upturin, the people who eat. This is the last part of the Mishnah. So the people who eat the figs, temporary, they're parted from Maaseh. The owner of the gate is chayav. Hada Amra, this tells me that Beiso Tovaloi, a person's house creates a tebel status. But he doesn't create it for others, tebel. So the fruit that you bring the balachotze into his courtyard or into his shop, they're tebel for him, but they're not tebel for everyone else. Rabbi Yehuda Paita. Rabbi Yehuda patters the owner of the courtyard and the owner of the shop from taking ma'aser until he turns his face inwards into the courtyard or into the shop. Or he changes the place where he was sitting in the courtyard or into the shop. So he goes into a more private area, that's when his master obligation comes. They both said one thing. Tanina and Tamam. We've learnt elsewhere, what is the courtyard which is Chaim Maasrot? What sort of courtyard? He says, if you're not embarrassed to eat inside it, people outside don't see what goes on inside. Chayeves. That obligates payers that going in to have an obligation of maasros. But if you're embarrassed to eat in it because people see you, that's not kaver for maasros. So Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah holds like this view, and therefore he patters the owner of the courtyard and the owner of the shop from taking maasros. They're bringing into the gate of the courtyard, facing the street, or into an area of the shop, in the shop there where people are passing by. These are places people are embarrassed to eat, and therefore they're not included in a chatzah which is kaver for maasros. Only when you bring the fruit into your domain, where you're not embarrassed to eat, that's when the chiyuv maasros comes about. Now the Mishnah that we brought until now also brings the views of other Tanaim who argue in Nechemia, and they hold a courtyard is kaver for maaser even if you're embarrassed to eat there. So Gemara brings machlekes based on the words of Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yossi, Avin and Savin Meima. But first we wanted to say, where's the argument? The courtyard you're embarrassed to eat, but kula, it's completely open. There's nowhere private there. Rabbi Nechemia holds it's not like a house, so there's no maaser obligation. The other Tanaim hold even this courtyard can have a maaser chiyuv. Ha-miksasa, but if there's an area of the courtyard where a bit of it is open and bosh, and you're embarrassed to eat there, or miksasa and part of it is enclosed, lo bosh, you're not embarrassed. Lo, so there's no argument Tanaim. Even Nechemia would agree if part of it is private, the whole thing is kaveya, a maaser obligation. That's what we wanted to say. But Mimadam Rav Lazar, that which Rav Lazar said, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nechemia, Shnei Amro Davar Echad, they both said the same thing. Hada'ara, this tells me that Rav Nechemia argues on the other Tanaim, even when a courtyard, you're embarrassed to eat in some of it, and according to him, this courtyard, the din is, if you bring your fruit into an area where you're embarrassed, l'makom shu bosh, potter, then you're potter from taking Maisa, although there are other places where you're not embarrassed. And if you bring your fruit l'makom she'ena bosh, to an area where you're not embarrassed, so it's a private area, then chayiv, you have to take Maisa. So according to this, we're saying it really depends on the area. If it's a closed off area of the courtyard, then that's kaver for Maisa. If you're in an open area of the courtyard, then it's not kaver for Maisa. Rabbi Yochanan said, dear Rabbi Yehuda who patters the owner of the courtyard and the owner of the shop from taking Maisa until they turn their face, or they move their sitting place. What's this based on? Also, I said, Chachamim treat the din of the Balach Hatzeh, or the owner of the shop, Keyichud, like a branch of a fig tree which is in the garden. Shunait, or Yechur actually. Yechur, a fig, a branch of a fig tree which is leaning in the garden. Shunait Lachatzeh, which is bending to the courtyard. Right? We said in our Mishnah, a courtyard is not kaver for maestros, the fruit which grows in on this branch. You can carry on gathering figs and eat it arai. The same thing here. Rabbi Yehuda allows the owner of the courtyard or the owner of the shop to eat from the figs one by one achilas arai until they turn their face, right, or they move the place where they are sitting. Now the Gemara brings differences between the two biurim and the view of Rabbi Yehuda, who patters the owner of the shop and the owner of the courtyard from taking Maisa. According to Rabbi Yochanan's view, Rabbi Yehuda pattered the owner of the courtyard and the owner of the shop only in a case, but where he's eating them one by one, and he's eating them together with other people who are there in that group, and only in the case where he leaves the other people sitting there to eat afterwards. So he finished his eating while they're still eating. You got that? He left them to carry on after him. Right? So he finished eating first. According to Rabbi Lazar's view, Rabbi Yehuda pattered the owner of the courtyard. Even doesn't eat one by one. He eats a few together. Basically, he eats on his own, separate from everyone else. And even loishia, even if he did not leave the others to eat after him, he finished after them. He was the last one there. We're still saying, Rabbi Yehuda patters him, right? Even if he's the last one standing, yeah? Or the last one sitting in this case. Now, okay, that's the end of Halacha Aleph, yeah? Oh, right. Halacha Beis. Bringing fruit into the house is kaver achir maestros only if they're going into the house of the owner of the fruit and not the house of someone else. Now, the house doesn't have to be an ownership of the owner of the fruit. It needs to be a place where he lives. Sometimes even a place where he lives is not kavua. It's not really important like his house. So we're going to talk about various cases of living which are not fixed living. When are they considered like his house? And they are kaver for maestros. So hamale peros, he's taking fruit which is unmaised. Migalel Yehuda, from Galil to Yehuda to sell in Yehuda. Yerushalmi, he's going to Yerushalmi with fruit which is not maised to sell in Yerushalmi. He doesn't want to sell it until he reaches his destination. Oichel, he can eat it temporary until he reaches the place where he's going there. The same thing on his way back to Galil. So if before he reaches his destination he decides that he's going to go back to his first place, he can eat arai on his way back, even though they've not had Maisa taken. Reb Meir said he's allowed to eat from the fruit not Maisa until he reaches the place where he wants to stay for Shabbos. Once he reaches the place where he wants to stay for Shabbos, then he can't eat the fruits temporary eating, even before Shabbos comes in. When he reaches that place where he's staying, he can't eat it without taking Maisa. Okay? Now, you've got the peddlers who are going between the houses and the villages, selling cosmetics, whatever, and they take fruit which is unmaised. They can eat it temporary eating until they reach the place where they're staying the night. Rabbi Yehuda said, when he reaches the town where he wants to stay, Ba'is Rishon, the first house that he goes in, that's his house. And bringing the payros into this house is kaver for chiyuv maasrot. So the first house he goes in has a maasrot obligation. Now the Mishnah later on tells us that Shabbos is kaver for maasrot, right? When Shabbos comes in, any fruit the Gemara Malacha is chiyuv maasrot, is easy, you can't eat it temporary, even though it's not gone into the house. And bring a machlokes amaroim, is that with fruit which were prepared for Shabbos, or even fruit which were not prepared for Shabbos? Right? Amaroim, which fruit do we say Shabbos is kaver? Is it fruit you were going to eat or not? You got it, yeah? Peres shelagta and shalola for Shabbos. If you gathered them, but not for Shabbos. But Kishalel Shabbos, then Shabbos started. Before they were eaten. Rabbi Yochanan says of Shabbos teveles. Shabbos is kaver, it's tevel, you can't eat even after Shabbos. You have to take Masa. Shemein Lakish says in Shabbos teveles. No, Shabbos does not create a tevel status, and after Shabbos you can eat it, even temporary eating. Mosif of Shemein Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. He asks Adatach, according to you, the Tema. You want to say Shabbos teveles, Shabbos creates a tevel status, even though it wasn't ready for Shabbos, this fruit. You weren't going to have it on Shabbos. But Tanina, we've learned Amale Peres from Yehuda. You take fruit, which is not Masechet, from Galil to Yehuda. You're going to sell it in Yehuda. Yerushalmi, you go to Yerushalmi with fruit, which is not Masechet, to sell in Yerushalmi. You can eat it until you reach the place where you're arriving. The same thing when I'm coming back. We've learned on this in a brisa that the fruit is permitted even if you're going to Lon, you stayed in your house. Shabbos, and even if you kept Shabbos in your house on your way back, on the way to where you were going. So basically, Shabbos is not kaver for maasrot if the fruit was not designated for Shabbos. So then why is it that this fruit is mutar chilas arai even after Shabbos has gone by? Because they're there for selling, they're not there for eating. And the Shabbos is not kaver for maasrot. But according to you, Rabbi Yochanan, Shabbos is kaver for maasrot, even fruit not set aside for Shabbos. Then why this fruit is permitted arai after Shabbos? Once Shabbos has gone by, it should have a kviyas for maasrot. It should be forbidden even achilas arai. Rabbi Yochanan answered back, the fruit is permitted achilas arai even if you kept Shabbos. Why? Because you arrived in before Shabbos. You arrived before Shabbos in the place where you want to stay on Shabbos. And the Bryce is telling you, according to the Tanakama, even if you reach the place where you want to stay for Shabbos, the fruit is permitted until Shabbos comes in. Once Shabbos comes in, the fruit is tevel. You cannot eat it temporary eating. You got that? So it's allowing you to get to your house. It's allowing you where you want to stay for Shabbos. It's allowing you to get there. But as soon as Shabbos comes in, you won't be able to eat it. And I'll prove it to you. The Tari Allah, we went to another Bryce in the view of Rameh, who holds when you reach the place where you're staying for Shabbos, that's kaver for maasrot. I feel Shabbos b'sheni. Imagine if your fruit you kept Shabbos on Monday. Your fruit is kaver for maasrot. Now what do you mean? Yes, Shavisa b'yem sheni. Is there Shabbos on Monday? There's no Shabbos on Monday. It must be Shabbos here. It doesn't mean you made your Shabbos there. It doesn't mean that. Ella, what does it mean? It means you come on Monday to the place, where you want to stay next Shabbos. You got that? You arrive on Monday at the place where you want to stay next Shabbos. Avhacha, so here in the first brisa, it says, according to the Tanakama, it's possible, even if Shabbos, it's talking about a case where you reach in a weekday to a place, where you want to stay for Shabbos. And the brisa is telling you that according to the Tanakama, you're allowed to eat from the fruit achilas arai until Shabbos comes in. You got that? Either you've arrived at where you want to be for Shabbos, you can still eat there until Shabbos comes in. Okay. Right. I think we will stop here, Rabbi Sai. What? Sorry? Oh, it's the end of the perek. 1 minute. How much is there to the end of the perek? No. No. End of the perek? No. We've got still a way to go.